Adopted children. What was it like meeting your birth parents? I was 25 when I got a letter that changed everything. It came from the Department of Corrections. My birth father had somehow tracked me down through public records and wanted to meet me. The dude was serving 15 years for armed robbery. I'd never really cared about finding my birth parents. My adoptive family was amazing, and I figured whoever gave me up probably had good reasons. But getting a letter from prison? That wasn't what I expected. At first I almost threw it away. What kind of person reaches out from behind bars? But something about the handwriting got to me. It wasn't the messy scrawl I imagined from some hardened criminal. It was careful, almost shaky, like someone who'd practiced writing the same words over and over. The letter was short. He said he understood if I never wanted to see him, but he'd been thinking about me every day for 25 years. He knew he had no right to ask, but if I was willing, he'd love to meet me just once. No pressure, no expectations, just a chance to see the person he'd given away. I sat on that letter for 2 weeks. My girlfriend kept asking what was bothering me, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her my birth dad was in prison. Finally, I called the number he'd included. A automated voice told me visiting hours and how to schedule an appointment. The drive to the correctional facility was the longest 2 hours of my life. I kept imagining this tough guy with tattoos and dead eyes who'd try to manipulate me into bringing him money or helping him appeal his case. I practiced saying no to whatever sob story he'd give me. When they called his name, I watched this small, quiet man walk into the visiting room. He looked older than his 48 years, with gray hair and these tired eyes that immediately filled with tears the second he saw me. This wasn't the hardened criminal I'd prepared for. He sat down across from me and just stared for a minute before breaking down completely. I mean, full-on sobbing. The guards looked over and I felt embarrassed for him. He kept apologizing, saying he never thought this day would actually come. When he finally pulled himself together, he told me about my birth mother. She died when I was 6 months old from complications after surgery. He said he'd been addicted to drugs back then, in and out of jail even before I was born. He knew he couldn't take care of a baby. The part that got me was when he said, "I gave you up because I loved you enough not to drag you down with me." He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was just stating facts. But then he pulled out something that completely threw me off. It was this beat-up shoebox, and when he opened it, there were dozens of letters and drawings inside. Hand-drawn birthday cards, Christmas notes, little updates about his life, all addressed to me. He'd been sending them to the adoption agency every single year, hoping they'd give them to me when I turned 18. The agency never delivered a single one. They just kept them in my file, and when he'd asked about it during his last sentence, they finally told him they'd been sitting there the whole time. I spent the next hour going through 25 years worth of letters from a man I'd never met. Some years he was hopeful, talking about getting clean and maybe earning the right to be in my life. Other years he was brutally honest about his failures, his relapses, his arrests. But every single letter ended the same way. "I hope you're happy and safe, and I hope the people raising you know how lucky they are." When visiting time was up, I didn't know what to say. This wasn't the monster I'd imagined. This was just a broken person who'd made impossible choices and lived with the consequences. I came back the next month, and the month after that. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because talking to him helped me understand myself in ways I never expected. We looked exactly alike, had the same sense of humor, even the same weird habit of tapping our fingers when we were nervous. He got released 8 months later. We grabbed coffee at this little diner near his halfway house, and it was the first time we'd ever sat together as free men. He told me he didn't expect to be my dad. He'd lost that right 25 years ago, but if I was willing, he'd like to try being my friend. That was 3 years ago. He's been clean ever since his release, works at an auto shop, and we grab lunch every few weeks.